My name is Sarah. I'm a student at King's College London, and I'm going to speak about, as I said, objectives and strategy of Israel's military operations in Gaza. My section was really dense, and it kind of touched a bit on what the speakers have said before. Basically, I'm just going to pick out the bits that I kind of learned from it. So, as Hisham said before, we can't pick out the context of the military occupation 40 years before the attack, and kind of even after 2005, as another speaker said, the Israeli had total control even after the withdrawal of ground forces, and so they had detailed background info on what was in Gaza, detailed grids and everything. Also the knowledge of international law that all the military officers had, also all the soldiers, the higher up you are in ranking, the more legal advice and training you had, so they're very aware of the international laws, etc. And they have the commanders have real-time legal support as well during the occupation. Also, the military, the Israeli military is one of the most advanced in the world, market leaders in production of advanced technologies, so precision strikes, etc. And even there's allegations of new technologies used in Operation Heartbeat. So it's highly unlikely that anything that happened before, both legally and militarily, hasn't been deliberated and sort of discussed beforehand by the military. As one of the speakers said, there's one instance on which it was the house, where the 22 civilian members were killed. That's the only instance where the military, Israeli military, said there was an error. 99% of the firing had intended targets, and over 80% of the bombs and missiles used by the Air Force were targeted. Also, one of the quite interesting things is the military strategy developed during Operation Heartbeat is one that follows up from the attacks in 2006 in Lebanon, which is became known as the Dahiya doctrine, which is the use of disproportionate force to target the whole of the civilian population to create great damage and destruction. So one of the kind of quotes from a general at the time called Gudi, I might be pronouncing that wrong, says, from our standpoint there are no civilian villages, there's only military bases. So deliberate targeting of civilian population, and the quotes are quite awful. What happened in the Dahiya quarter of Beirut, that's a quote, in 2006, will happen in every village from which Israel is fired on. We will apply disproportionate force on it and cause great damage and destruction there. From our standpoint, there are no civilian villages, there are military bases. And then they went on to say, another Colonel Siboni in October 2008 said the IDF will need to act with force that is disproportionate to the enemy's action and the threat it poses, targeting centers of civilian power that support the organization. Sorry, everybody, I'm speaking maybe too much. They also said that their goal was parallel to the goal of the NATO forces in Yugoslavia in 1998. And then the second part of, in the conclusion of the report that the Goldstone report kind of states, the military doctrine that the Israeli government applied in Gaza during Operation Heartbeat was disproportionate destruction and creating maximum disruption in the lives of many people as a legitimate means to achieve military and political goals. And that's the crucial point, is that they were targeting the supporting infrastructures of terrorism. And in their eyes, the supporting infrastructures of terrorism include the whole of the civilian population. So that's kind of what they play on, is this, thing. So, and again, under international law, obviously one party's targeting of civilians or civilian areas can never justify the opposing party's targeting of civilians and civilians' objects. Not to say also disproportionate attack is against international law, etc., etc. The second part of this was the impact of the blockade and of the military operation on the people of Gaza and their human rights, and it's kind of very detailed analysis of how firstly, the economy, livelihood, employment, it's a dire situation. And so every time in each section of those, I'm going to really quickly kind of just state, maybe, wrap up. They explain the dire situation before the Operation Cast Leave, the dire, and then obviously how much that's been intensified. So just maybe to pick up one example is housing. 11,135 homes destroyed, 2,011 civilian and cultural premises destroyed, 600 tons of rubble, and the rubble is also toxic because it has an impact on the environment and public health. That's not to mention the large quantities of hospitals, educational institutions, ambulances, etc. And just also the impact on psychological health, mental health, disability, the disproportionate, not the disproportionate, but the special effect it had on women and children. And my section just ends on the legal analysis. And as someone else has touched before, breaking of the Fourth Geneva Convention, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Conventions on Rights of the Women, and finally, there's even the Goldstone report says that there's, grounds there for crimes against humanity.